Have you ever been completely, totally alone? I mean, the kind of alone where the only sound is the wind, and your closest neighbor is miles away across a raging ocean. It can be a little spooky, right? Imagine doing that for a living. Imagine your entire world is a tiny, rocky island with nothing on it but a huge stone tower. That was the life of a lighthouse keeper. A tough job for tough people. But what if I told you that in the year 1900, 3 of these tough, experienced keepers vanished without a trace from inside a locked lighthouse? They left their dinner on the table, as if they were just about to eat, and then were just gone. This isn't a ghost story. This is a real-life mystery that has baffled investigators for over 100 years. So, let's talk about the Flannan Isles. It's a remote, God-forsaken speck of land off the coast of Scotland. Locals used to call it the other country, a place they believed was touched by magic and strange spirits. The only thing man-made on the island was a brand new lighthouse, a beacon of safety in a dangerous sea. In December of 1900, 3 men were stationed there: Thomas Marshall, James Ducat, and Donald MacArthur. These guys were not rookies. They were seasoned sailors and keepers. They knew the sea, and they knew the rules. The most important rule? Keep the light on, no matter what. On December 15th, a passing steamship, the Archer, was making its way through the area. As they passed the island, the captain noted something deeply unsettling in his log. The Flannan Isles light was out. In the middle of a storm, the lighthouse was dark. This was a serious problem, but due to the bad weather, no one could get out there to check. For days, the light remained dark. Finally, on December 26th, the relief keeper, a man named Joseph Mòr, made his way to the island on a supply ship. He was expecting to see his colleagues waiting for him on the landing dock. But no one was there. The entire island was silent, except for the crashing waves and the cries of seagulls. Mòr blew the ship's whistle and fired a flare, but still, nothing. A deep sense of dread started to creep in. He rowed to the shore and began the long, steep climb up the cliffside to the lighthouse. He found the main gate to the compound was closed. The main door to the lighthouse itself, also closed. Everything was locked up tight, just as it should be. But when he finally managed to get the door open and step inside, the silence was deafening. The first thing he noticed was that 2 of the 3 oilskin coats, the heavy, waterproof gear the keepers lived in, were missing, but one was still hanging on its peg. He walked into the kitchen, and that's when the scene went from strange to completely bizarre. The table was set for a meal. A plate of salted meat and pickles was sitting there, half-eaten, as if someone had stood up in the middle of dinner. The clock on the wall had stopped, and in the middle of the room, a single kitchen chair was knocked over on its side. He searched the entire lighthouse. Every room was neat and tidy. The beds were made, but the men were gone. Joseph Mòr ran back down to the boat, his heart pounding. The Flannan Isles Lighthouse was empty. A full investigation was launched, and the clues they found only made the mystery deeper. The most chilling piece of evidence was the lighthouse logbook. The entries were written by Thomas Marshall, the lead keeper. For the days leading up to the 15th, the entries started to get weird. On December 12th, he wrote about a severe storm, with winds so strong he had never seen the like of it in 20 years. He wrote that James Ducat, one of the other keepers, had been very quiet, and that Donald MacArthur, a tough, brawling sailor known for getting into fights, had been crying. Crying. What could possibly make a man like that break down in tears? The next day's entry was just as strange. The storm was still raging, and the men were praying. But here's the thing. Weather reports for the entire region on those days showed that it was completely calm. There was no storm. So what were the men seeing? The final entry, on December 15th, was short and confusing. It just said, "Storm ended. Sea calm. God is over all." And that was it. The logbook was blank after that. So, let's recap the impossible clues. 1. A storm that apparently never happened. 2. A tough man crying in fear. 3. A half-eaten meal and an overturned chair. And 4. The biggest clue of all. That single oilskin coat left behind. This meant that 2 men went out into what they believed was a horrific storm. But one man ran out after them without his coat, in the freezing Scottish winter. Why would he do that? You don't forget your coat unless you are running for your life, or running to save someone else's. So, what happened out there? The theories are all over the place. The official explanation is that a giant freak wave washed over the island and swept the men out to sea. Maybe 2 of the men went out to secure some equipment, got into trouble, and the 3rd man ran out, coatless, to help them, only for all 3 to be taken by the ocean. It's plausible, but it doesn't explain the locked doors, the stopped clocks, or the strange log entries about a phantom storm. Another theory is that the men fought. Maybe MacArthur, the brawler, finally snapped from the isolation and attacked the other 2, throwing them into the sea before jumping in himself. But that doesn't explain why 2 of them would go outside in the first place. And then, there are the stranger theories. The island was believed to be a place of supernatural power. Some say the men were taken by a sea serpent, or ghosts, or were even abducted by foreign spies in a boat. The truth is, we just don't know. All we know for sure is that 3 men went to work, lived in a locked tower on a remote rock, and then vanished from the face of the earth. They left behind a few baffling clues that still give people chills a century later. So, what do you think happened on the Flannan Isles? Was it a freak of nature, an act of violence, or something else entirely? Let me know your best theories down in the comments.